Welcome once again to The Lost Signals discusses games and gaming culture, a pretentious, philosophical, pedantic podcast where we focus on various aspects of video games as well as other issues and topics within gaming in general. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to The Lost Signals games and gaming culture. And as per somewhat tradition, so technically this is our second episode of this new season, but we're going to do our top games, which I normally do first, but either way, I'm your host for tonight, Scott Thurlow, joined by my buddies Jonathan Ian Manzer.
I just wanted to give a shout out to Cape
May,
May
baby.
IPA, or crab beer as we call it, which is one of my favorite beers. So
Delicious
shout out to
beer.
them.
It's good beer. And also, Stephen Amosi,
And
what's your plug?
I guess if we're giving shout outs, I'm drinking some wine that was offered to me by my buddy who runs internationalwinereport.com. Check it out if you're
so
looking for
wish.
wine.
Indeed. I'm drinking nondescript whiskey, if you all must know.
Yeah.
But either way, so as I said, our traditional-ish top games episode. So we'll start with top games, but we're counting backwards, so 5, 4, etc. And I will start, if you fellows don't mind. So again, quick caveat, I'll speak on your behalf. I, of course, probably played the most games out of us this year, but definitely less than last year for sure. Nevertheless, though,
Sorry.
I have Steve, I was losing headphones. I have a somewhat well-rounded list, so I'll just kick it off. Number 5 on my top games is going to be Hitman 2. And I somewhat, it was a late, I was debating, looking at the list of games I had and where I'm going to put what. And I decided that I bumped something else out, and I'll tell you what it was later, but Hitman 2 was basically Season 2 of 2016's Hitman, but all in one. They didn't do episodic, which is all at once. And, I mean, if you like Hitman, it's fucking top-notch. It's solid, and I guess I'll say why I'm giving it credit is that they put so much care and attention to the detail. Again, they used so many options, and I even replayed a bunch of missions just to see, the different, they sometimes suggest you, oh, do a kill this way because it's more of a story, related narrative kind of, kill. If you set it up correctly or whatever, then it's a bit more, it makes more sense. But, of course, you can do whatever you want, and it's fun to experiment. I think the level design and everything was fucking solid, and the final thing is that while I didn't mess around with it too much, they still kept putting out updates afterwards. It's the lose of targets, stuff like that. So I just have to give them, I believe IO did it. Just give them a lot of credit because they did a really good service to the fans who are into Hitman. And even if you weren't, it was a damn good game to play just to check out, and it was fun as hell.
If I might jump in here really quickly, Hitman 2 was one of the of the other. So I was the lazy one of the group this year. I only have 2 games that I really played fully through from 2018. But Hitman 2 was the one that I was the closest of all the other games that I didn't play to getting because I heard great things from you and I heard really good things from a couple other people. And it seemed like kind of an interesting re-jumping in point to the series.
Yeah, man.
So I'm glad that you said that you liked it so much, and I may still at some point try to get in a couple hours on it.
So, 2 quick things. They gave it out for free on PSN, at least, as one of the free games, late last year or maybe early this year. So it's maybe, I want to say February or January's free game. That's pretty cool, given that it came out and released in November of 18. So it's sort of late release. But yeah, man, just the design of it and the way it feels to play Hitman is still as awesome as ever. So I gotta give them a lot of credit. And yeah, while I didn't again do every fucking single challenge because there's so much of that stuff, which is kind of cool too. I messed around a bit more than I thought I would, and I just were I able to have more time? Yeah, I probably would have fucked around more. But either way, it's a damn good game, and it was enough to make my number 5 spot. So on to you guys.
All right, well, I'm doing a last-minute switch.
Oh yeah, okay.
Oh. And I'm putting the Shapeshifting Detective to my number 5 spot.
All right.
I have a soft spot in my heart for FMV games. I liked them when I was a kid, and I think that they have only improved. And the developer actually, I looked them up today. I don't remember their name. I apologize, but they also did the Late Shift,
right?
Which I think I talked about last year.
You did. It was a bonus
they
point.
They have a bunch of FMV games, but Shifting Detective is perhaps one of the best of those games.
Within it.
I did. It has a really neat mechanic where you can play as different characters, and you're like in conversation, you're finding out more information, and you can switch to a different character and then like accused.
So it's more of a detective-ish kind of bent to it.
And they switch
As
up
in the
with
title.
3 different randomized villains each playthrough. So I really enjoyed it when I played it. I enjoyed going through all of the different playthroughs to find out the differences
Scenarios
in
and
killers.
stuff,
The thing is, I forgot about it until we started doing this, so it's my last thought. But I really think that if you are on the edge of whether FMV games are good or not, I think this is a good example of a well-done one, and I think it deserves more attention. And actually got really good reviews as well.
Yeah, right.
So,
I'd like
Very
to
nice.
just jump in, since I am going to be contributing so rarely in terms of the games that I played. I'll look stuff up for you guys. Shapeshifting Detective developers, there were 2 of them, in fact, looks like Wales Interactive and Daveki Studios Limited.
I haven't heard of either, to be honest.
So there you go.
Wales Interactive was the one that produced a number of the different FMV games.
Right.
Okay, so they're sort of like known for that, like their specialty. All right, cool. All right, so I'll move on. My number 4 is Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So again, like I say this a lot, but in case anyone's unfamiliar, I've played almost, if not all, the main Assassin's Creed games since they started. And yeah, they're up and down. The quality can, sine wave itself. But I think Odyssey was on the one of the higher curves of AC. It's more RPG-ish. Like they took some of the RPG elements that they had in Origins from last year and sort of expanded upon them. And yeah, like it's cool. It's set in ancient Greece, so like that was really cool. Like that, it was a good setting to choose. Even though I guess if I had to nitpick a bit, that the map almost felt too big. Like it was so much stuff. So like it was kind of unnecessary. And also, eventually, I maxed out my level, so I no longer need to like go to every little camp and abandoned outpost or whatever, and like clear it out because for no experience. But I will say, I think the writing, and especially the voice acting, the characters are interesting. I chose to play as Cassandra, the female. Like you could choose either one, but I heard like her voice actress was better, and I thought, yeah, it was damn solid. It wasn't a stale like just retread of anything. And on top of that, I have to give Ubisoft credit. Like love them or hate them, they did put out a number of just free like little mini stories and like quest lines and stuff like afterwards. And I bought the season pass on sale. And I thought the first arc of the first one, because they're doing it like oddly, they're cutting it up. But I thought that was pretty solid too, overall. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, and they switched it up just enough, and it was, again, a cool setting that I just personally have an interest in. I thought they did a good job with it overall, and one of the stronger entries in the franchise.
Awesome. So I actually mentioned this to you maybe a week ago or so, but like you said that you were putting Odyssey on your top 5 list. And I remember last year, or maybe 2 years ago, the AC game, last AC game,
Origins, yep.
Origins, you had on your honorable mentions.
Correct.
So what I wanted to ask you was, do you think this was better than that one?
Yeah. I think it was like, just because it took everything that was like cool and a nice change up from Origins and sort of like streamlined it and just made it like better, more or less. That they improved like, not hugely, but minor, like, I guess I'll say quality of life improvements. And everything that was cool about it. And also, I guess, of course, because they gave you the ship, so you can also, like, do ship battles and naval battles, like, Black Flag. Yeah, so you do both. And, like, yes, you're in a Greek ship that had Greek fire and stuff, which is cool to fuck around with. So, yeah, like, I think they took a bunch of stuff that fans said that worked before and put it into a blender and just shifted into the ancient Greek world, and that worked pretty damn well.
Yeah, it's really fascinating being somebody who I never fully played an Assassin's Creed game, and I've never bought one, and like, but I know so much about the series because you love it, like, or you play it, you play all of them,
enough,
and, like, I just get all of that information through like your playthroughs of it.
Yeah, I guess I'll honestly say like Black Flag to me is still the best one. This one might be second to that. Maybe it's tough between that and AC2.
Yeah,
but yeah, it is definitely one of the strongest ones, and they did a really good job with it. So
nice.
I like how they abandoned the entire initial plot line of it.
Yeah, like there's barely like, so it's there's like in the timeline of all ACs, it's the earliest one. So there's no Templar. Like Origin's supposed to be the origins of Templar, so there's not even that in this. I think it's something else, but it was still pretty cool. Basically hunting down a cult, And I thought that was a nice thing. Like, it almost harkens back, in fact, now I think about it, to the original one where like you uncover clues and then you track down like a target and then like that leads to bigger and bigger targets while the whole time you're unlocking better skills and better armor and gear and so forth. So yeah. And like of course like they had some mythical creatures, like you fought the fucking Cyclops and the not the Hydra, the Medusa. Like they had like they're like we have to have it in there. Like,
did you have a Minotaur in there too?
Yeah. It ties like tangentially into like the precursor like fucking lore shit, but it's there and it's fun. So give them credit. Hey, what's next for you?
Okay, Secret of Mana.
The good choice.
Remaster. I like it because they keep everything I loved about the original Secret of Mana. They updated the graphics, and they added elements to it, which I actually heard a number of pundits complain about when it initially released. But they add little not cutscenes where they develop the characters of the boy, the girl, and the sprite. Here's the thing: is they're really almost had no personality.
They were not
in the first.
They're not very well developed in the original, yeah, for sure.
And now I feel that they're much more fleshed out characters. The boy is a little bit of a traditional Japanese stereotype
JRPG
of,
hero 101.
Yeah, the kind of goofy guy. It's very forceful. Girl trying to find dialogue, where they stress out that part, and the sprite's a mischievous character. But so when you sleep in the inn, after certain events, they'll have cutscenes which they're talking about the events that
like plot relevant stuff.
Occasionally, I'm playing through and I haven't slept in an inn in a while, and they're referencing events that happened a couple hours ago.
Sure.
But whatever, the game mechanics.
But that's cool enough, yeah.
But I like all of that, and it brought me back to my childhood and why I love this game in the first place, with adding not only updates to it, but characterization to it. So I have to give you credit for that, and that's my number 4.
Yeah, it sounds good. I mean, Secret of Mana, we brought it up a number of times variously on this show that, like, yeah, it's one of my favorite, like, old school, sort of inform my sensibilities, and I'm glad that they did a good job with it.
It also added to kind of the urgency of where the Empire would occasionally surface. It felt omnipresent in this
nice
version.
So I mean, you honestly you answered the question that I was going to ask, which is like kind of how it compared to the first one and like what they did to change it up.
Modernize
I
it
think
a
it's
bit.
a great template for how they should reintroduce RPGs
Like
from
games
back in the day.
from that era.
It's really interesting. They have a lot of like that's happening a lot these days. Where like I feel like they're doing a good job of bringing old games into new, like Resident Evil 2 just came out, like things like that.
We'll get to that, but yeah, for
Secret
sure.
of Evermore, do it.
Yeah, oh, that'd be awesome. I agree with that. All right, so yeah, very nice pick. Let me move on. So the top 3 spots were actually not true. The top 2 spots I shuffled around, but at the end of the day, I'm putting Red Dead Redemption 2 at number 3. And so I just have in my notes, I'll try to condense it. Rockstar at the top of the game, production-wise, is almost second to none. Like, this game looks fucking amazing.
Yeah.
The animations, everything, like the voice acting, the writing, yeah, it's all top-notch Rockstar stuff, for sure. I've used this analogy a number of times, but I think it's probably more pertinent here. It's the Kill Bill 2 to the original Red Dead. Like, you play them we can play one or the other, and we play them both. It all like creates its own huge epic Western, like cycle. Really, my complaint about it though is like mechanically, because they focus so much on realism, perhaps too much so, that like it can get bogged down. Like, I was trying to do like, I remember like crashing my horse. Like, God, like, come on, like, seriously, like, that's gonna fucking throw me off my horse. Like, I remember yelling at the screen, like, come on, dude, I'm just trying to get 1-2 things done, whatever. So like, it can get too fussy, I guess I want to say, mechanically. But once you learn the ropes, sure, you can definitely manage it. It's just that even like hours down the line, you're like, come on, really? Like, you can't just like sort of scale that mechanic back a little bit. But other than that, yeah, it was a great follow-up. I know it's been 8 years since the original, but yeah, I had a great time with it. And I even, what was it? I wasn't going for 100%, but I'm going to see like how much I could get through. I ended up at 93. Like, when I was done, like, I went back, like, did some side stuff. Like, there's always, like, like, collect 20, always, like, side missions and, like, even, like, little, like, errand kind of things. But I did the ones that seemed fun to me, or like ones I was didn't mind doing again. And yeah, I got pretty far. So, and of course they all have all these Easter eggs and references and shit, and like that's fun and cool, like to uncover them. But yeah, just overall a fantastic, like the soundtrack also was fucking amazing. I will say that. But yeah, a great follow up. Again, 8 years moved, and production wise, like Rockstar always does a great job. And again, they did not disappoint me on this front. So.
Didn't wait as long as StarCraft they do.
I guess
but,
not.
What I was going to say in terms of Red Dead was, like, I have a couple of work friends that are playing the game, and, you know, I'm sure they have their own small issues with the game or whatever, but what I hear the most about is, like, these little interactions that turn into, like, these grandiose stories in their own minds, cool. You know, like, in terms of, like, what's going on in the game.
Yeah,
like,
for sure. So,
you know, it seems like they pay so much, and I've watched you play a little bit, but, like, I haven't played the game at all, but, like, I know all these personal stories of people that are like doing these like little things within the game that are really cool.
I'll give you the term. So it's sort of like a buzz, like sort of pretentious term, but emergent gameplay is a thing, right? You stumble upon something and that like, oh, it seems minor or whatever. Or even when you're just dicking around, like you can sort of cascade yourself a bit, or like stumble into one, and like that can lead to some interesting and really like again unscripted moments, like but adds to the feeling of being like a badass in the dying days of the Western bandits.
I actually remember watching you play, and you wander into like a shack in the middle of the swamp or whatever, and some guy like fucking just, you know, what the hell was it? Like I don't remember. I think he like knocks you out, and like you wake up like hours later,
and he robbed me or whatever. Yeah, and then you go hunt him down. Like so it's like it's littered with. It's funny because. It's almost like the opposite of an AC game, where like there are very few markers on the map or anything. Like it's not like littered with icons. You just you're riding your horse around the countryside and shit, and you like stumble upon like some random NPC or again some little encounter that seems innocuous or like again seems minor at first, but might lead to something different. Like for example, I guess I'll give you a good microcosm before I end off on it. So I randomly like saved some guy, gave him some medicine. He had like a snake bite or something. Gave him like a bottle of medicine from my inventory. A day or two later, in game, I went to town, and he was outside the general store. He's like, "Hey, thanks for saving me. Go inside, pick a gun. It's on me." Like sweet, like free gun. Nice. Like you know, it's like narrative and mechanics like sort of feed into each other in a very organic way. So I'll give him a lot of credit on that. Yeah, like I know many people, a number of other pundits were like, "Oh, it's game of the year." I'm like, I don't know if it's number one. Clearly, it's not on my list. But yeah, it's a strong, really, really well done game. And when they're like I said, when they're on, they're pretty spot on. So that's why it lies at number 3. And what do you got at your spotty?
Speaking of realism, Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Yeah,
which I played it after they repaired a lot of it, so I don't know the initial frustrations that plagued the game. I played it when it was a whole
patched
game.
up and stuff. Yeah,
and I have to give it credit on a lot of fronts. It's a weird game that a lot of games frustrate me that you're weak when you start, but then you become OP.
Yeah.
This game, you're really weak when you start. It's Peasant Simulator. And it's very difficult for the first part, and then eventually you feel like you've earned your skills and skills. Yeah. And most of the quests in there can be solved in however you want it to be solved based on how you're role-playing the character. And I have to give it credit for that they went through and came up with like 6 different solutions for any given one. So there's one where you have to go hunt down bandits in the woods as part of the main quest line, and you can go kill them yourself, or you can go back to town, tell your captain and where they are, and they go and march in and kill all the bandits for you. It's such a clever way of developing a game. It is very frustrating. It's very realistic, especially if you're playing the hardcore mode.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
But I don't know. I really enjoy it. So my favorite part of this was it takes place in Bohemia, I believe, or somewhere around there.
I believe that is correct.
And Jan Hus, who was one of the priests that were arguing for changing things, but Bernie Sanders at this time. No way.
Sure.
Bernie Sanders, Bohemia.
Railing against the corrupt church at the time. So there's a priest that you get drunk with and end up like ringing the church bell at like 4 a.m. and like disrupt everything. And he's so drunk you have to give this sermon, and you get rewarded based on how much you paid attention to his talking about Jan Hus earlier of that. If you can recite his teachings, and
That's
it's
awesome.
such like it's a great melding of teaching history, which I would never know much about because I don't really study medieval Bohemia very much, and the beauty of it is that you are a peasant, and you're never going to grow beyond a peasant in this. You can grow in power in your service to your lord, but you don't
Not
become
in like status or station.
like when I think of Skyrim, where you can become the grandmaster
I'm
of
the
every
fucking,
single
I'm the archmage
faction.
and I'm a highest assassin. Yeah.
No, you're not. You might become a burgermeister. You might become head of the guard, but you're never going to become more than what your station would allow at that time, and that to me is a good narrative. So I have to give credit for its narrative, if not its gameplay.
Yeah, very nice. So it feels like you're saying the commitment to that was very respectable, and it's funny because I was going to wait till we get to the segment later, but Kingdom Come was one of the outliers. Like I wanted to check it out, but as you mentioned, upon release, it seemed to be riddled with a number of bugs and issues and so forth. But then a month or two after that, they started patching up, and it was now like playable and like perfectly
it's
fine.
very playable now. And if you heard that and you're hesitant, you should go and get it because it's a great game.
But like you said, it's very committed to like realism. So
yeah, I was gonna say this is like honestly the game of I looked over both of your lists, and this is the game that I understand the least, but am like it's one of the ones that I'm the most interested in. Like I don't know what this game looks like at all, and I can't even imagine it based on your description. Like
a realistic Skyrim.
It's like Skyrim.
Yeah. All right.
Here's the thing.
Well,
Okay,
no,
so,
like the thing is with no dragons, like it's based in based in actual Bohemian history. If you will.
Archery. If you have to wear van braces when you initially become an archer,
right?
Or you damage yourself when you
yeah, I mean like that's some hardcore
ridiculous.
I think you have to reach a level 5 bow out of 20. I think I'm getting things right here, but before you become even good at using a bow and you don't have to use van braces anymore.
Yeah.
But like that level of dedication to making this as real as possible.
Horribly fucking like understanding what it's
I mean you're a peasant,
tiny
man.
minuscule
You're
degree
a blacksmith's son.
what it is, how the annoyances of like living through that life. Yeah,
for instance, you become friends with a lord in there, and then you go on adventures, but you're always second to that lord,
right.
or the lord's son, and you're like, it feels. I have to give it credit for its realism. There.
Sure. Yeah, like I said, like I was that was one I was definitely interested in, but just like I held off because of the issues, and then by the time they patched it up, my plate was full. Yeah. But you were telling me like when you were playing it, you're like, oh yeah, they're doing this and that. Like
here's what you can go into the woods and hunt game. The meat you get rots. If you kill a deer, there's more stuff in the deer than you can carry.
Right.
Unless you have a horse with you to do it. And if you also be charged with poaching if you get caught doing that. Like very kind of
hardcore shit.
Very mundane, like everyday bullshit that people have to deal with.
Towards the level of what I've heard Red Dead mundanity and realism.
I mean, up and down. Like, I mean, I can get into it. I don't really want to, but like, they had a hunting thing, and like, I think your meat would spoil, but you had a very like large window which that would happen. But yeah, like hunting shit. I got pretty good, I thought, at hunting in Red Dead, but it was a steep learning curve, and yeah, it was pretty realistic as well. But it just seems like I'm interested because I am a bigger fan of medieval history, and like that's why I was initially interested in Kingdom Come. Yeah. And like I said, like maybe if I get a chance this year, if they goes on sale or whatever, I do want to check it out. But
I recommend it.
You were telling me when you were playing, I was like, yeah, man, it sounds. I think I even one time I requested you were playing it. I was like, let me just watch it. Right?
Yeah.
It looked cool.
I was practicing archery.
Yeah,
because really, I have to practice archery to become good at archery, and that's such a weird.
That's how it fucking
that's
works.
For real, man.
Sure.
All right.
All right, so let's move on to number 2, which I think actually you can speak about this, Steve-O.
We've all got games for number 2.
Yeah. So it's Marvel's Spider-Man, and just it was the best Spider-Man game probably ever made at this point.
Yeah.
Everyone loves. I think it was Spider-Man 2 for the old PS2. Like this one surpassed. Like it's the new gen graphics. Of course, the controls were fucking amazing. It made you feel like being Spider-Man in New York, and I don't think I think the map was the perfect size. It was neither too big nor too small. There was a couple of districts, like, of course, condensed in New York. And I thought the story was really fucking cool because if you're more of a comic fan, you obviously like know a lot of the shit. But if you're not, it's not like you're alienated from it. They kind of did their own thing. It wasn't an origin story. So I like that fact about it. Like, Peter Parker's been doing his thing for a couple years. And it's origin story for someone else, but not him, if that makes sense.
Spoilers.
Kind of like, I'm not going to say who it is, but you know what I mean? But I thought the voice acting was top notch, and just they told their own tale using the characters that are known and beloved within that, while also having an awesome mechanical game. Like, the way it works, the fighting was fucking so much fun. Like, the abilities you unlock and the gear and shit. It just all came together to be like, it's as cool as the Batman Arkhams were. And how it made you feel like Batman, this is exactly that. And just, again, production value, super high. It looks gorgeous. So that's all I want to say, and that's why it's number 2 for me.
I guess I'll jump in. Yeah, I mean, our 2 and 1 are going to be the same, Scott. But yes, Spider-Man was a really well realized game. It catches you from the minute you start playing. Maybe not the minute, but like within the first 10 minutes, you're going across New York looking for backpacks, and then like you kind of realize that you're going to get all these backpacks pretty quickly, and then it becomes like a much like more wider sprawling game than that.
Yep. And
like it's the web slinging is so much fun, and honestly. The fights are the only thing in that game that got a little old to me. Like, the web slinging is so much fun. The story is great. Like, the random, like, battling street thugs.
I guess I'll say, like,
got a little old to me. But, like,
the missions
other
themselves,
than that,
sure, but
everything else, and, like, everything else so well realized about this game. The story is great, and takes some, like, really dark turns that you don't expect.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I was, like, very happy about. Like you said, you have this, like, you have Peter's story, and then you have, like, a couple of other stories that are fascinating as well. I don't want to spoil anything, but, like, yeah, it's a great game. The best Spider-Man game I've ever played, and I've played several.
There's been a number, yeah. I might be the best superhero
Going
game
back
even.
to Separation Anxiety, if you guys remember that one,
yeah,
the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, it's a great game. I highly recommend it.
I'm sorry, Superman 64 is the best.
Get the fuck out! Get the fuck out of here!
This is the opposite of Superman 64.
I almost shook my headphones off of my head.
All right, but yeah, no, I give, and so it's made by Insomniac, which is the devs who did Infamous, I believe. I think,
and that makes sense because it's got a similar like play style, like open world play style to Infamous.
But no, like you said, it was completely excellently realized. And if you're a fan of Spider-Man, or if you're tangentially a fan, this game empowers you to be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So,
really, okay. So, my number 2 is a game that has stuck with me, and it was actually on What Culture's Worst list because I love it, and I don't know why, but because I feel it's very 90s computer game style.
Okay.
Vampire.
With a Y.
Yeah.
Yes. I adore the fact that you're a doctor in early 1900s, but also a vampire.
In London, right? With the Spanish influenza is happening, right?
Dr. Quinn, medicine vampire. It is... but the fact is, like, you have to treat people with... I don't know. It's everything about it. Now, very much like you, when you're talking about, like, the combat system, it's kind of lackluster. I would say that vampires, but the world they built was so fascinating, and the story they're telling is very interesting and took turns I didn't expect it to. I don't know. I platinumed it because I was so
very nice.
I just wanted to see everything that this game had to offer, and very gothic. You're trying to be a good man as a vampire, or you can just become a bloodthirsty monster if you want. No one's good at this. So you can feed upon people, but you're justified almost in feeding on everyone in the game because no one's
It's all
a good
morally
person.
great, it seems.
Like every district is like, and you're trying to balance the whole district falling to chaos and being taken over by the infestation that's happening, or just feeding on every
to it.
Yeah,
in fact,
exactly. I don't know. I really enjoyed the heck out of this game. I would recommend it to anyone because I don't really have much more to say to it.
Yeah, it's funny because again, like similar to Kingdom Come, it had like I believe it released around the same time even originally, and also was, as I remember, like reading reviews and so forth, it was a little bit technical issues here and there, it was a little bit buggy, blah blah blah.
Occasionally, it would crash on me.
But then they patched that out too. So yeah, as you said, it seemed like a very interesting, ambitious idea. It's just that I wanted to get to it, but by the time it was patched up a bit, like I was already, drowning in other games. Yeah. But and you're right, like you said, it stuck with you. Like you told me about it when you played, and like a month or two later, like yeah, I'm still trying to platinum it, and I'm still like seeing new cool shit or doing it a different way.
Yeah,
so.
This game gave me. That's really what we're here for. A game that gives you pleasure in playing, and it did. And even with the frustrations of it crashing occasionally, I still
stuck with it
because they had a really good kind of quick save system, not quick save, autosave system, and it just worked for me. And it's actually, when you're trying to play a good person, you're actually handicapped by the fact that you can't grow as a vampire as much. So the eviler you play, the easier the game is, and it's an interesting morality system.
Yeah, it seems like a really cool aesthetic. Just seems like a cool game in general. I guess like Scott was saying, like I guess it was like had some technical issues, but like
I had a bit of rocky release is all.
Like something like that. Like it seems like they were really going all out for like not gameplay, but like plot. In terms of
and world building.
There's choices you can make, which you have like basically occasionally it's binary choices, like in most morality systems. Usually they give you like 3 choices: whether you use your vampire powers, whether you do what seems good or seems bad, and you don't always know what the repercussions of your actions are going to be. I had people die because. All right, so there's one character is a priest. Who is infected, but he's not a vampire. He's this kind of ghoulish character, and he believes he's very much a good man attempting to shepherd his flock. And you can either give him your vampire blood to convert him into a vampire. You can
let him die.
You can kill him, or you can let him live. And so I let him live at one point. And no, he turns and kills 2 characters, and it's like I didn't see that.
They're messing with your conventions of morality.
So not, and I like that because usually it's very black and white the choices you're making.
Sure.
And this is, you don't know where the repercussions will end.
So I throw some curveballs, and then you're saying that's pretty cool and within the setting.
Nice
and very nice. All right, so I think we're all going to agree on number 1 game of year. Mm-hmm. And because it happens to be a 3-word title, I will just say the first word, and we're all going to start it off. It's going to be God
of
War. Indeed. And yeah, man, like it came out in like earlier in the year, so like May or so, April even, and just like started gathering like all these like laurels and stuff. Like everyone's like, "Holy shit, it's amazing!" Like you guys played it first, in fact.
Yeah.
And like I came to it a little bit late. I was waiting to like get a copy of it, and like after I was like, "Yup." And just there's so many things that are great about it. It's a single player game, which I always advocate for. It's no bullshit. There's no microtransaction, all that, anything like that. And it's so much fun to play. And like I wasn't even the biggest fan of the franchise. Like I didn't like have that much investment in the God of War franchise series coming into it. But now I kind of did. I actually went back and played 3 because also they gave it out. But yeah, the new God of War, like it's just called God of War, like not 4. And like then the joke is everyone calls it Dad of Boy, like you know what that means, like
which we had an episode about that.
But it was just like it was fantastic design. It looked again aesthetically and artistically was fucking awesome. And there's something that E said to me that it does, which I'll leave you to say in a second. But just because of that and because of many other things, it was like the most balanced. I don't want to say perfect, but every aspect of this game was polished to a highest degree that I've seen. So.
Is it mechanics and gameplay?
Yes.
Okay. So this is perhaps the best merging of mechanics and narrative I've ever seen with Atreus. And the fact that he becomes such a expected tool in your
arsenal, we'll say,
arsenal, and then as he becomes more rebellious and he starts not listening to your commands, which it's a button press for him to attack an enemy. Now he's not listening to you. And all of a sudden, I'm frustrated as a father in narrative and also frustrated as a gamer.
Yeah.
And then he disappears for a part, and I miss him as a mechanic, and it builds into that narrative. It's such a brilliant thing, and whoever designed that aspect of Merge deserves all the accolades in the world.
It's fucking you hit it out right on the head. It's genius the way that they build your. I mean, he's like, if you think of it in terms of like just a regular game, he's your familiar, right? Like your son is your he's your companion. He's a side piece to your action, but he is just he's you gain like this through the plot. You gain like this connection to him,
you're
to Atreus. Yeah, you bond with him because he's your son or whatever. Like, you're going through this and it's like very realistic. So you have that bond, but also just through gameplay mechanics, it changes so much when he's not there, and it makes you miss him all the more when he's not there. It's not like the game's impossible without him. It's just like, oh shit, I'm used to like being able to fire off like a bunch of arrows and like stun somebody so I can go attack somebody else.
I want the ravens to attack people.
Yeah, exactly. It's wild how well they play that in this. What I also wanted to say is it's crazy how good this game is, despite the fact that it is like half the game that I expected it going in. Right? Like you at some point you open up a gateway
like
to
a
all the different worlds. And you can only get to like 3 of them in this game. And I expected to like be able to go to all of them, and it is very truncated to what I thought it was going to be. At the same time, it's still fucking amazing. Like way better than like Spider-Man's one of the best games I've played in a long time. This game is way better than Spider-Man. Like I think you said this, Ian. And I'm sorry if you were just like opening your mouth to say that just now, but this is the game of like this is a generational game.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a game that is one of the best games that people are going to remember. It's a game that
I think
we would put it on a fucking wall here.
It's a Baldur's Gate 2.
It's a fucking Chrono Trigger. It's a fucking Dark Souls. It's a game that people are going to remember years from now as like one of the best games of the generation.
And this is a game that people are that other developers are going to aspire to.
Yeah. Hopefully, they fucking should.
Oh no, they're going to come short, but at least
for sure.
This is moving the medium.
Yes. Like that's the best way you can say it.
It makes me so excited and also very scared for the next God of War game because I really want to see all the rest of these fucking worlds.
Sure.
I mean, they do Ragnarok.
And at the same time, they set up like other pantheons in this game. It's like this game, like this pantheon is going to go for at least 3 games, I would expect.
That's another trilogy.
Probably, and then they have 2 other pantheons that they set up in mid game. Like man,
I can't wait until we get to kill Jesus.
I fucking
me neither.
Please bring it on.
But
let's hammer his ass up on a cross. But like no,
with the axe.
I played the previous 3 God of War games. They're good. Yeah. They're really good, but they're not this game.
No,
for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like those games were great. Like those are games that I'll remember playing for the rest of my life. But this is a game that I'll be like, this game defined, that era in terms of what it was and what it did for storytelling.
Yeah, man.
Especially for storytelling. Like the gameplay is really good and really well done, but the storytelling is really what takes it over.
I think the merging of them, as you said, is one of the most coolest things I've seen. Like you said, unfortunately, this is a PSA. It's a Sony exclusive. So if you're an Xbox owner, you don't have a PlayStation. Sorry,
buy PlayStation.
But I think it is worth it just to play this game for sure because of that. So yeah, that's why it's number 1, and hopefully it will, the ripples that it will go across the next generation
it will
coming out.
leave in its wake.
Yeah, exactly,
Absolutely.
Exactly. All right, so that's the top game. So let's just fire off our honorable mentions. I will go now. It's just like in order. So number 1 for me is Far Cry 5. Like it was damn good. It's probably the most tightest mechanically designed Far Cry. It stumbled a bit in its narrative and what it tried to do. I wrote an article about it, which you can read if you want to.
We'll put up a
it's
link.
on our site. But yeah, like I mean, I like FPS and I like Far Cry again, the series in general. So it was so much fun to play. Some of the themes and so forth that they're going for, some of the characters they had, didn't quite get there. But goddamn, did I not have a lot of fun going through it. So like, it's one of the tightest FPSs ever, and probably like the best designed in the series. So I'm gonna give a lot of credit. And that was the last minute switch that I almost had Hitman here and Far Cry and number 5, but they switched out just because of that, and because Ubisoft still has microtransactions. And not that I bought anything, but sorry, I'm docking you a little bit of points there. So you have a couple honorables. E, what do you got?
All right. Detroit Become Human, which almost got my number 5 spot. I liked Heavy Rain better.
I would also somewhat agree.
I loved the good plotline of Detroit. I disliked the violent. So you're either like Martin Luther King of robots become Jesus.
Yeah.
Or
that's a really funny line.
You are a failed coup of America. And I think that there's some nuance in between, but it wasn't.
It wasn't in the game. Yeah, that's really fucking funny. I kind of agree. So it's funny because I have Detroit on my number 3 spot. So I'll talk about it in a sec. But since you mentioned it, so I'll go my number 2 in a second. But yeah, I enjoyed Detroit, but it's like a David Cage game. So if you know what that means, it comes along with that. So it's an interesting premise, and for the most part, well executed, certainly well acted. And you know, if you know, like it's basically all for the most part, QTEs more or less, and dialogue decisions. But you're right, like he was going for an obvious message, but that means because it's David Cage, emotions is video games. Like there's not a lot of nuance to it. Sometimes it approaches some nuance, but for the most part, it's like kind of straightforward. But nevertheless, it was an interesting premise and fairly well done throughout.
Can't just tell people how you're feeling.
That makes robot me angry. Sure.
There's moments of that game that are spectacular.
That like approach. Yeah.
So when Marcus, I believe his name was crawling through the purgatory,
the android graveyard.
The symbolism there.
Yeah, I got you.
You're beating me over the head here, but it's still a visually impressive.
I mean, there's something that's even worse. Like, so in the fictional world they have set up, if you're an android, you have to ride the back of the bus. Like, I wonder what they're going for there. Like, okay, thanks, David Cage. I get it.
Yeah. So,
but still, yeah, overall it's fine. So let me just go back to my number 2. Actually, sorry, do you have anything else to ask or want to know about Detroit?
No. I got all. Yeah. Actually, all right. Let me do a quick shout out. We did an interview with Michelle. Yeah.
Sorry, we're butchering your name.
I feel like I fucked it up again. I feel like I fucked it up every time I said it. But she is doing a project where she's doing a short movie based on Detroit.
Detroit, right?
I think it's called Detroit Awakening. We'll put
I'll throw a link in this one.
We'll throw a link in here.
Detroit is never recovering. So,
it's not recovering.
They're not awakening.
It's awakening
or becoming anything. But anyway, yeah. So let me go back. So that was my number 3 honorable. I have my number 2 is Bloodstained: Curse of the Moon, which was sort of like a precursor, little like appetizer.
Oh, I did play that game. I guess it's my number 3.
Sure, throw it on there by default. But no, it was a Castlevania thing that leading up to Ritual of the Night that they're eventually, hopefully, will be released this year in like the summer. But it was like old retro 8-bit style. Mostly an homage to Castlevania 3. So you pick up companions, and it's just as hard. Like actually, you can have like old school like fucking edge knockback. So like you get hit and like you fall off the edge, or you can get like you can change it so you don't fall off the edge. So it's like somewhat more forgiving. But I thought it was a really fun, amazingly well designed homage for what it is, retro style Castlevania game.
Yeah. It was good. It was really good.
I played through it a couple times. It was short. Like it was $10, and you can get through it in maybe like 2 hours or so. So I played through it like 3-4 times doing trophies and shit.
Actually, if you're on a limited budget, this is my suggestion to you if you want to have a fun like retro style game.
Yeah, it was perfectly priced and damn good job. Like they didn't skip on it. Again, it wasn't lazily churned out or anything like that. So
do 2 and 3.
Yep.
Number 2 is Shadow of Colossus. I love the game. It's a great.
The
It's-
remaster, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's a beautiful game. It's a piece of artwork. The thing is, they didn't. I was as frustrated with mechanics in this playthrough as it was in the original one.
Yeah.
And I think that is a detraction that they didn't. They just created
They could
a
have
new
updated
version
the button
of
admin,
shadow classes,
Yeah.
and
They made it look
didn't-
better and didn't make it play better, right?
Yes. So
Yeah, I agree. It was a little odd to.
it's still a worthwhile game to play.
I watched
It's great, but-
I watched sometime collaborator on this show, Louis, my roommate, play a little bit of it, and he was as frustrated as you seem to have been.
I mean, like, it took some getting used to, but it still felt like a little archaic, I guess we'll say, in the way they had their
It feels
control
like I'm
scheme.
playing. What was it? PS3 that came out.
Yeah.
I think it was 2, in fact, yeah.
It's still the same, like hit detection and things like that
Yeah.
that had, and it does feel old. And my number 3 is Fallout 76. I don't hate it as much as everyone else does.
Seems to, yeah.
I think it's mostly a bandwagon effect, and yes, I'm talking to you, the viewer. It's good. I like the fact that it makes me feel like I'm in an abandoned wasteland with no one around, and I actually had a lot of fun with it. And when I hear someone approaching, I'm actually quite nervous. Another player. I don't want to deal with other people.
Sure.
I'm
Of course not.
and I
Like
got
in
a
real life.
I got a lot of fun out of it. And was it the best game in the world? No, I like it better than Fallout 4.
Fair enough. Take that as you will.
I don't have Preston Garvey yelling
Hey,
at
man.
me that one of the fucking settlements
Yo.
that I don't even want that you're forcing upon
Let me
me.
mark it on your
Because-
You know the
motherfucking
best
map,
thing
man.
is, I'm fairly certain that all three of us are gonna remember Preston Garvey's name until the end of our fucking days.
Yeah, but not in a
That
good
son
way.
of a
Not
bitch.
because I fucking want to.
That fucking son of a bitch. Fuck off, Preston Garvey.
On my grave, it'll be like, he marked it on my map.
Yeah.
But anyways.
You marked your grave on your map
Yeah,
long before you
exactly.
died.
But yeah, it's interesting. It seems that you had a good time with Fallout 76, or a decent enough time, it
I
seems.
enjoyed it.
Sure.
It's a good thing to like. I don't have a lot of time to play video games nowadays, but I could throw that on for an hour or so, wander the
And
abandoned
just,
wasteland.
enjoy yourself in the
I don't have
wasteland.
nothing. I don't have anything pressing to do in the game. I'm just kind of like exploring. And it's kind of
Yeah.
fun for that.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, so my number 4 honorable, I'm going to put Call of Cthulhu, which I know is kind of a biased pick. Like, it didn't necessarily get panned in reviews, but I will admit also it wasn't like blowing the borders off the fucking genre or anything. It was mostly a walking sim with some detective-ish shit like thrown in. But I think the atmosphere is really cool, and like, yeah, while the graphics can feel a little bit last gen, and even the acting, like, that somehow lends itself to a Lovecraftian story. Like, so, like,
Yeah.
it makes, like, I didn't mind it as much, and I thought it was decent enough overall. In fact, that it's shorter too. Like, so again, maybe going back to our very first episode, your value might vary on that, but I thought it was good enough to play through like 2 or 3 times.
A great callback.
But like,
The Order.
yeah, it's probably like 6-7 hour game, maybe 8 if you stretch it out. But I thought they had some neat ideas with the skill points, I think the skill trees and shit. And like, yeah, like, it was like basically they took a slice of every fucking Lovecraft story you ever read in your life and like threw it into one game.
Yeah.
And like, that was fine. It was cool enough. Although I wish they could have done a bit more with it. But again, like I said, my bias shows through, but I don't think it was a terrible game by any means. I just think it was a decent enough effort.
Well, my last game is Call of Cthulhu, and I'm
There you go.
putting it at 4 because I only played like the first couple
Like
levels
the first
of it.
2 chapters or whatever.
So yeah, it was fun enough at the time. I'm going to go back to it when I'm done with grad school. Speaking of going back to Spider-Man for 1 second, I had you look up to see if CUNY Grad Center was represented in Spider-Man, and it was not. So
sorry, my bud.
So that's why you're not going to play it?
not at all.
Fair enough.
Got to represent.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny we have Cthulhu like similar, so my last one for honorable is Vermintide 2, which I quite like the first Vermintide. It's basically Left 4 Dead in the Warhammer world, which I quite enjoyed like when I was a kid, and still think it's cool, again, fantasy-ish kind of thing. Now, I didn't play it as much only because it's set up for co-op, and I didn't have anyone to play co-op with, so I basically ran through like the 10 or 8, whatever it was, like however many levels there are by myself with the AI bots, and it was fine, it was doable. But again, it's viscerally satisfying to carve through a bunch of Skaven, and like, they added a new faction, the Chaos. So like you fight like Chaos, where like some of the special enemies were like a Chaos spawn. So if you know what that means in Warhammer, it's cool to fight. So yeah, it was a straight up sequel to the first one. So the story and the characters like continued on right on from then. And I thought it was pretty cool. Like they were in between mission like exposition, but it's all like, we must kill cleanse the lands from this, like the vermin who has ascended upon. Like it's all like over the top like shit. Like, but it makes sense in given it's Warhammer.
Sure.
It was fun enough and well designed levels.
So it's basically a Left 4 Dead clone, right? And like,
yeah, pretty much. But I think it's better than Left 4 Dead. In fact, at this point,
just as a PSA, there is a new
that's true.
Left 4 Dead, not exactly a sequel, but like the
next iteration,
spiritual sequel, I guess coming out. I forget what it's called. Back 4 Dead or something.
Back for Blood.
Back for Blood. Yeah, with a 4.
It's very generic.
With a 4 in the title.
Obviously, with the 4.
Like Left 4 Dead, it was in the title. But yeah, so
they just announced that like
just
this
so
week.
you all know.
Yeah. All right. So last two things, winding down a bit. I don't think you guys have anything, but usually I do like shit's week or like week games. I thought they were like lackluster. So I have two. The one that I think is the most fitting is We Happy Few. I was quite looking forward to it, sort of an Orwellian dystopian like alternate history thing, and like I enjoyed the writing. I thought the writing was pretty solid, even the voice acting, but design wise it was lackluster, and it was plagued with I got so many crashes on that game. I wasn't sure I was going to finish it for like act 1. Like I was at the very end of it, and I was at this one part and just kept crashing and crashing and crashing. I was like, fuck you. So I finally went back and like I loaded like an older save from like hours ago and like pushed through, and luckily got through it, and I played the other two characters.
That's so brutal.
It was fine, but it fucking sucked. And even like some of the quest design was kind of lazy, like again, very generic, kind of bland. So it compared to everything else we said, it just has to make it's going on shit's week.
Shit's week.
And then second one is not quite as weak as that, but I got Just Cause 4. I enjoy the Just Cause series, and I was going to pick this one up like I knew I was going to get it. And it's fine. Like, it's a fucking Michael Bay of video games. Like, shit's exploding everywhere, and it's entertaining to play. The story and dialogue is like, at best. And the new thing they had was the weather shit. So, like, it was fun to fuck around and fly around a tornado for like 10 minutes, and then it got old. So, like, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, Just Cause 4, do you really give a shit anymore? Should be the
what does it
fucking
matter? Like,
subtitle.
I mean, more Just Cause is basically what it is, but
so it's more Transformers 3 versus The Rock.
Yes, yeah, that's really funny. It's pretty much it. Like, it's fun but forgettable. That's what I'm saying. Like, I had a good time playing it for 2 weeks, and then in fact, I rarely do this or haven't in a while. I traded it back to fucking GameStop because they gave me half credit on it. I was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm never gonna play this again.
Fucking A.
But it was okay. It was fine. While it lasted, but I'm not gonna go back ever.
But your shit's weak.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's wrap up real quick. I know we're going a little bit long. I was going to do like other shit, but you mentioned like Outliers were Kingdom Come and Vampire, so you covered that. So here's two things. What have we played so far in 2019? I played Resident Evil 2.
I have been playing Resident Evil 2. I love it.
It's fucking amazing.
It's great.
It's a great remake. I think you're next on the list to play it.
I have been programming an emotion detector for my grad school. So
well, I can't wait to play that. But no, yeah, so Resident Evil, just real quickly, 2 is one of my original, still is one of my favorite games ever. And this remake is the new bar in remakes, for sure.
It's great.
And then I've also played Far Cry New Dawn, which was a spin-off from 5.
I've been playing Metro.
Yep, I was going to mention that.
Yeah. I love...
Oh, I'm playing the original Metro.
Yeah, the original Metro, yeah.
So I'm getting that, yeah, so...
Best game I've played in a very long time.
It's fun.
Well, it's funny because...
I love the world that they developed in it.
Yeah.
All right, so I played Far Cry New Dawn first. They came out on the same day, and it was fine. It's more Far Cry, nice little or Mad Max little kind of spin-off DLC. It's not quite Blood Dragon, nothing will ever be, but it was good enough. Same day, Metro Exodus, which is a new one, dropped, and I played through that, and I thought it was damn solid. So I told you guys. There was a deal, there's a bundle going on where the first 2 Metros...
It was $9 for the first 2.
And that's a fucking steal.
Snap it up. I think it's still on.
So when you're done, I'll ship you guys Exodus. But Exodus was quite good. I think it earned its place in the trilogy. Expanded a little bit. It was a little bit more open world, but not quite. But if you like the first 2, it was that. It was a new gen Metro.
If you don't know what Metro is, it's a post-apocalyptic Russian... jaunt through the subway with fucking horrible mutated creatures.
In Russia,
and,
the apocalypse is
post-apocalyptic society.
I haven't played too far into it, but so far the pacing is fantastic.
It's wonderful.
Yes, they do. They do a very
fun.
good job. It's a little bit different feel from a Western game, where like a lot of the in between mission stuff, like sort of reminded me of Wolfenstein, where you're just hanging out with like your crew and stuff, and it's like a lot of. It feels like in any other game, I would say it's exposition, but because it's so well written and so well performed, it makes you feel a camaraderie with your NPC players, and then when you're playing like the actual levels,
I got beat up by a hooker and had my money stolen.
Yeah,
standard,
and also that
makes you feel camaraderie with the hooker, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And also that happened in Metro. But but anyways, so yeah, those are the only 3 games I've played so far. It's early on. So real quickly, here's what's coming up that at least I'm interested in for the next through the summer and the spring and through the end of the year.
Please, hopefully we'll talk about these next year.
2019, Days Gone's coming up. It's like a third-person biker zombie thing. Looks okay. It's got okay buzz. Rage 2, I'm interested in. Sinking City, the second Lovecraft game that was supposed to come out next week, now got pushed to June, so hopefully it'll come out. Like I said, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, which was the precursor. That was for the Castlevania one I was talking about. Control, which is a new game by the devs who did Alan Wake, Internet. Doom Eternal, I know you're waiting on that one.
Yes, Doom.
Ooh.
Can't wait for Doom.
Wasteland 3, my boys at In Exile doing old school isometric RPGs. And finally, like everyone knows about this one, but in case you haven't, The Outer Worlds, which is the new Obsidian joint.
Yeah.
Basically, like anyone who hated Fallout 76, and even if you liked it, like their old shit, it's basically their new sci-fi-ish thing. It's like Firefly, but made by them.
Nice.
So it looks really good. And finally, also, Layers of Fear 2, which I liked, the first one. They're doing another one.
And if I might, what is it, Sekiro and Sashimi?
Ghost of Tsushima.
Tsushima?
Yes.
There's no
Sashimi is
yes.
Delicious fish.
The food.
Yeah. Ghost of Tsushima.
Ooh, yes.
Both of those games I'm really looking forward to.
So Sekiro comes out of the date of this recording like next week.
Yeah.
Ghost of Tsushima hasn't had a date, but they said 2019, probably like Q3 or so. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I know.
I'm definitely getting that one.
Yeah. Well, I want to bar from one of you guys.
Yeah. Well,
you get one, you get the other, and I'll bar.
Absolutely.
But I don't know, I've gone a little bit long, even though oddly I played less games this year than last year. But that's pretty much it. Those are all thoughts on the games that we played and where they lie in the rankings. And I think that'll do it. Any other thoughts, boys? Final thoughts?
I have no thoughts off in my head.
All right. Well, I'll get back to my my boat in the World Serpent. I've been Scott Thurlow, here with Jonathan Ian Manzer.
Goodbye.
And Stephen Amosi.
I'll see you later.
See you next time. Thank you for joining the Lost Signals Games and Gaming Culture. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows and more, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates.